we're very delighted today to be speaking to John Ghio, who is the current CEO and captain of the Gibraltar Port Authority. Now, the Gibraltar Port Authority is an integral part of Gibraltar's maritime services, and it is the duty holder for Gibraltar's coastal state obligations, as defined by the IMO 3 code. And Gibraltar Port Authority's mission statement covers the safety of navigation, safety of operations, environmental protection, and search and rescue. Now, John is the current CEO and captain of the port, and following on from working in the maritime sector in Gibraltar, John joined the GPA in early 2011 as a bunkering superintendent and has worked his way up to the organisation to now lead the GPA since January 2022. Now, John, you and I have met before. We go back a few years, and I know really like to thank you for your involvement within LISW over the previous installments, and certainly be like it's been a very, very good relationship that we have with Gibraltar. We're looking forward to working with you again in 2025. So welcome to today's London interviews.
Thank you very much, and we're delighted to be able to participate in London International Shipping Week.
So talk to me a little bit, first of all, about Gibraltar and the growth of Gibraltar. I mean, it is a major maritime cluster. Can you, for our listeners and our viewers, can you put it into perspective a little bit as to the role that it plays? You are quite crucial geographically as well, but do you want to put it into a little bit of a sort of focus for us?
Well, I think the key thing with Gibraltar, within the Gibraltar Straits are one of the busiest shipping routes in the world. And Gibraltar sits astride of the Gibraltar Straits, which means that the thousands of vessels that are transiting Gibraltar Straits can take advantage and call at Gibraltar with minimal deviation. We're talking a couple of miles of deviation to be able to call at a port at an anchorage and be serviced to what we consider to be the highest standards possible.
So you've also got a lot of services there within the port area. We'll come on to that in a second. I think the recent developments through the geopolitical situations with the Houthis and what have you, where you've now seen a lot of vessels coming round the Cape and up. What impact has that had on Gibraltar?
Well, I think we had an unexpected windfall at the beginning. The logistics routes were adjusting. So we had a glut of vessels that had been scheduled to go up through the Red Sea, doing the entire trip around Africa and then coming in through Straits of Gibraltar into their destination port. I think it settled down subsequently, but at the same time, what we have lost in terms of traffic, which normally comes from Suez, has to a certain extent been replaced by traffic which is coming into the Med anyway after doing the round trip. And I think it's also indicative of the resilience of our port in terms of the offering of services and how vessels continue to take advantage of it.
Talk to me a little bit about the range of services that you have there within Gibraltar. I mean, as I said, you're strategically placed. You're a well-established maritime cluster. You remember the Red Ensign Group, I think, as well.
That's correct. Yeah.
Which is excellent. Talk to me about the range of services there that you have.
Well, I think what I want to do is first of all look at the range of services that we have from the port perspective to vessel calling, and then we'll go on to the wider maritime industry and the wider cluster. So in terms of the port, the big service that we provide is definitely bunkering. We are, by volume, we are the biggest bunkering port in the Mediterranean and within the top 10 worldwide. I believe we're third in terms of volume within Europe. And Sean, you've been in Gibraltar, you know Gibraltar is geographically very small. So it's no mean achievement for us to be able to sustain those volumes year after year. And that's part of what drives us. We know what the Port of Gibraltar is. It's a service provider, a service provision hub for vessels transiting. And knowing that that is our role within the industry, we dedicate a lot of time, energy, and effort to make sure that those services are as good as we can make them. Now, bunkering is a big part, and we'll talk about, if possible, how bunkering fits into the sustainability question a bit later on. It's not only bunkering. The idea is that we offer a service one-stop shop. So the vessel which is calling at Gibraltar to be able to take bunkers can then take that downtime whilst they're doing bunkers to take on lubricants, discharge marple waste, underwater hull cleaning, crew changes, provisions, spare parts. So it's a full range of services that we can offer. And how we coordinate and maximize the efficiency of the provision of services with our partnership approach with the stakeholders in the port is what I think sets Gibraltar as a destination apart from other ports.
I mean, I want to come on to your proximity to Europe and Spain. You're on there. It's amazing when the border's there just by the airport. You walk across the runway. It's phenomenal. It's an amazing place. But looking at your strategy moving forward, as you said, you've got your third largest bunker provider in Europe. You've got that preeminence there. What is your strategy in moving forward, looking at sustainability? Let's talk about that side here. You've got new fuels coming in, the industry's changing, but there's also a lot of opportunity here. What is your strategy?
Well, look, I think if we use the example of one of the relatively newer fuels, LNG bunkering, we've already made LNG bunkering a reality. It's something that takes place on a regular basis in Gibraltar. So we have 2 licensed operators, and depending on the rotation of the bunker barges, we have 3 dedicated LNG bunker barges able to supply LNG bunkering. And I think it's a very important milestone for us because it shows that, yes, we're very strong in the conventional bunkering field, but we've already managed to break down barriers and deliver on the new fuels as they come on stream. We've had the first bunker supplier, LNG bunker supplier, was licensed in advance of the demand actually picking up. So I think that's how we've broken what was going around for years, this idea of the chicken egg scenario. How do you break it down? And it's finding the synergies with the private companies that want to actually provide the service, see where and how we can accommodate them and facilitate their use of the port to strengthen the resilience of the port and the offering of services which is available.
When you look at the bunker industry, the bunker trade, what is winning business? Is it still the price element? Is it, because you're all going to be providing the services, but you do have that strategic position, don't you, geographically?
We can't ignore the geographic position, definitely. But at the same time, we're a very specialized port. So as a difference to some of the nearby competing ports within the Straits of Gibraltar area, we are not a massive container terminal port. We are not a massive ferry terminal. So the knowledge of what our specialization is means that we dedicate a lot of time and energy to making sure that we deliver on this. So for example, yes, pricing is a big factor. Geographical position is a big factor, but it's also things such as the way the operation is regulated, the regulatory framework for the bunkering operations in Gibraltar, the way that we have within that regulatory framework dedicated time and effort to have a quality management for the product, quality management requirements on the licensed operators where they need to satisfy us that the fuel quality is up to spec at all times. So it's these things that set us apart within a context of competitive, within the regional framework, competitive pricing, but at the same time going that extra mile to make sure that when the vessel and the operators fix a bunker stem in Gibraltar, they know that they're going to get good service, timely service, and most importantly, good quality fuel. And when we've had changes like the IMO 2020 change in fuel parameters, these are moments when the quality management procedures that we have within our regulatory framework come to prominence, and we've seen that.
How is the bunkering side going to be altering and changing, evolving over the next few years? What are your sort of views on that?
I think that there's 2 separate scenarios here. One scenario is how the international bunkering industry looks set to change. And it looks set to change with the advent of increased transparency, better transparency from the supplier side, better knowledge from the bunker buyer side in terms of what they're getting. And I think the reason I say there's 2 sides is a large number of those elements are already present in operations in Gibraltar. Now, going forward, there is also the scenario of a diversification of the fuel products. And we talked about LNG bunkering. This also applies to biofuel bunkering. Again, We have biofuel capabilities already, and we carried out biofuel deliveries. So I think the diversification of the product offering was one challenge that caused us an element of concern. But I think we are showing already very clearly that we have the full range of the conventional fuels, from the high sulfur for vessels equipped with scrubbers all the way to the IMO 2020 compliant fuels. We have a good availability of product coming up for the new SECA requirements for the Med, side by side with the new fuels coming in. Now, when we go past LNG and biofuels, and we go, whether it's ammonia in the future, methanol, hydrogen, it's how we mix that, we add that to the mix at the same time as we continue service, because as we all know, the transition to the newer fuels isn't an overnight, isn't a flicking a switch. So you need to be able to provide continuity of service as the vessel operators start changing. And that will also help the operators to take on board the transition to newer fuels, because if we demonstrate to them that we have ports that are able to cater for those demands, then it takes a worry out of their considerations when looking at new fuels. So I think it's an important part that we're doing in a let's be honest, we are a small port geographically. So our part to play in this is modest, but at the same time very important in reassuring the industry that when the demand materializes, we will be able to cater for it and safely within the new range of fuels that will come online.
Now, as you said earlier in our chat, it's part of the overall maritime services that Gibraltar offers, shipping, the work of the port and the bunkering side and what have you. But there are a lot of other stuff. I mean, Gibraltar's a major flag. You've got a lot of big legal community there as well with the work that they're doing. You've got ship repair facilities. You've got training, you've got the academy there, what have you. Do you want to just talk a little bit about the sort of the complete maritime services side and Gibraltar as a cluster?
Absolutely. So you mentioned ship repair. So we have a shipyard with 3 dry docks where we've had conversions from conventional fuel to LNG fuel, where we've had installation of scrubbers. So I think that ties into the sustainability. And they're a very specialized ship repair yard with a very good reputation. So they are one of our key partners. We have, as you said, a very resilient, very strong legal community, which is playing with us in terms of participating in the maritime industry. I think some key developments, the flag being an RAG Category 1 register, is an important partner in the maritime services. And we also have the University of Gibraltar, which has a maritime academy. So I think we have a full spectrum of service offering to the industry over and above what we actually do on the port and on the waters of Gibraltar. And I think it's one of the things that government is very keen to showcase, because the full spectrum of opportunities and how we can cater for that is very important.
How's it all been affected through the Brexit element? Because we have to talk about the elephant in the room a little bit to a certain extent. You are right on the border with Spain. You've got the port of Algeciras around the corner. You've got big maritime centres like Cadiz not far away, and what have you. How does all of that affect operations in Gibraltar now?
I think, look, the vicinity of major ports just works to strengthen the offering that we have. So there are synergies between the service centres that deliver service to Cadiz, Algeciras, and Gibraltar. So companies that are able to work in all these ports. So that part isn't a negative. In fact, it's a positive. I think the Brexit scenario, the biggest issue with the Brexit scenario is the uncertainty that is caused to a certain extent. I'm sure you know that Gibraltar with the UK is still in the throes of a final negotiation for a treaty relationship with the EU. We don't have a date for delivery on that treaty. And because it's such a technical treaty, some of the details that are being negotiated are closely kept. So there's not so much information available. But I think the underlying reality is there's a business continuity model which is still carrying on. So there are companies coming in, having companies interested in setting up whether it's bunkering operations, ship agency, ship repair services. So it's not an impediment right now. But what we do feel is that once the relationship and the last vestiges of the uncertainty are lifted, we expect that we can capitalize and be even more proactive and more dynamic on this.
Talk to me a little bit about the flag as well, John. Also, the flag of the registry. How is that going? There's a lot of responsibility with running a quality flag, and there's a lot of opportunity in running a quality flag as well. But how's growth going, and what are the big issues you're dealing with at the moment?
I think the biggest issues is within the REG framework, which is a very welcomed framework that my colleagues from the flag are delighted to be part of, and the fact that we're a category 1 within the REG framework. It also means that there are some, not restraints necessarily, but there are some limits to the flexibility that can be employed. I think the biggest challenge for the flag, and I'm saying this from an external point of view, because for the nitty-gritty detail of this, my colleague, the maritime administrator of the flag, is better placed. But I think the biggest issue is the flag is competing against purely commercial flags. So I think the reality of how we appeal to vessels wanting to flag their vessels, vessel operators wanting to flag their vessels with us, has to be looked at purely on the quality standards, the quality assurance, the customer service. And that's what I'm convinced that my colleagues are doing. And they're putting a lot of hard work into it. And at the end of the day, they have a very good reputation for delivering on this.
Yeah.
So part of and I might be preempting here, but part of the importance for Gibraltar Maritime Services in participating in something like London International Shipping Week is all the sectors within the maritime industry in Gibraltar are customer focused. So even from the Port Authority, it's very important for us to reach out to the end users of the port. And for the flag, is the same thing. Being in London at such a big event at a time when so many operators and the entire global community is in London participating, I think it's an invaluable opportunity for us to showcase what our offering is. And at the same time, it's keeping that personal contact, building on those relationships with our stakeholders and partners.
I mean, that brings us nicely on to LISW for 2025. And once again, and thank you very much for your support. You're getting involved in the reception of the main headline conference, which is excellent. And we are, we are so fortunate to be able to hold our conference at the plenary hall of the International Maritime Organization, and we're grateful to the Secretary General there and all of his staff for allowing us to do that. And it creates that lovely and perfect backdrop for quality shipping, quality operations, quality blue sky thinking and debate and networking and what have you. But at an international level, and you're quite right, John, you've got the international community coming in their thousands into LISW. Can you put that into context as far as Gibraltar Maritime Services, but how you see your role in the international community and how you'd like to develop that? Because it is a changing market, but it's full of opportunities, as we say, and quality and compliance are so important now. Absolutely. More than ever before.
Yeah, and I think you've hit on two very important parts, which is quality and compliance. There's also a third aspect, which I think Gibraltar can do very well. We are a small jurisdiction, which makes us an agile jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So every time that we go to London International Shipping Week, we will normally have the minister with responsibility for shipping for Gibraltar government attending. And this accessibility that we can offer, this accessibility where we have the head of the flag, the head of the port, and the minister with responsibility, as well as people responsible for the Maritime Academy, etc., and other stakeholders, being able to have one-on-one conversations with interested parties, people who want to learn more, and giving us feedback of what we can do better, how we can better cater for their needs. It's an invaluable opportunity. And I think it's fantastic the way that London International Shipping Week looks at this, because there's so many events with so much specialization at the same time as bringing in such huge networking opportunities that we invariably we will always be participating. It's a no-brainer for us.
The good thing about these interviews, John, and it's nice to sort of talk on a sort of more relaxed way now, is that it gives the visitors to LISW the opportunity to sort of prepare for what that they can maybe expect. And as you've just been alluding there, a lot of events going on, 300, 350 events, normally about 220 on the calendar, and there's another 100 that are going on with the big law firms and what have you. And people come out with these, expressions. Always make sure you have comfortable shoes and plan your day and all this sort of stuff. I mean, with your experience of that and something like an LISW, there's a lot of opportunity there to meet people that you wouldn't ordinarily meet, and you want to go in there and get that maximum sort of result and harness the potential from it. What sort of advice do you give really to the visitors coming in, based on what you and your team are likely to do when you come in September?
I mean, there's a lot of effort that goes into scheduling meetings in advance. But the reality is, I think events such as London International Shipping Week, it's the networking opportunities that you really have to take advantage. The one-on-one meetings in a boardroom, visiting a ship operator or booking an office and having a sit down with a ship manager, ship owner, those are fantastic. But the reality is all of those ship owners, ship operators will be bombarded with meeting requests as well. So there's an element of knowing what the environment is and being conscious that the demands on their time, on everybody's time participating, is very, very tough, very stringent. So you have to almost go into it knowing that you're going to set up the basis for a future relationship, that you're going to have the initial discussions, and that then offers you the possibility to follow it up and have further, more detailed discussions in a more time allowing manner outside of an event such as LISW. Because, as I said, there's so many companies, operators, so many parties that make up the maritime industry, which will be that will be in London in those days, that it can be very frantic. So I think it's balancing the opportunities without just treading water to try to make one meeting after another. It's about the quality of engagement and how you build on that relationship to sustain that going forward. That's certainly how we look at it.
And I think you're right. And I think when you look at, an element like the headline conference, he'll have 800, 900 people there, an excellent reception afterwards where people can meet the speakers and meet the delegates and meet the sort of level of people you wouldn't ordinarily meet. And then the day after at the gala dinner, when we're anticipating 2,000 coming along to that, which is huge. It's massive. But again, a great networking opportunity, as you rightly say, handing over cards, making that initial contact and what have you. But also good opportunity for collaboration between all the things that you're doing so well in Gibraltar with the other clusters as well, because clusters need to work together, don't they?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the key element here. So, but John, thank you very, very much indeed for your time today. It's been an absolute delight and joy to talk to you. And thank you very much for giving us your thoughts and your perspectives on what is happening in Gibraltar. And again, thank you very much for your support of that stuff. It means an awful lot to us, but it's the right thing to do, because a cluster as important as Gibraltar, it's good to see you getting involved in something like this that the international community can learn about you as well.
Sean, thank you very much. Always a pleasure speaking to you, and thank you for allowing us to participate.